Hello, everybody, and welcome to. Well, I guess this is a proper show now. We're on like episode 3, so welcome to Kneale Can Talk, a show where I talk about stuff I like or dislike on the internet, because nobody's ever done that before, and I'm the first. So, yeah, patent. We have talked about Marvel fatigue. We have talked about Springtrap getting into Dead by Daylight. I feel like we've covered a lot of stuff that could happen or maybe should happen. But now we're gonna talk about something else. We're not talking about possibilities. We're not talking about like what's going on with Marvel's future. We're not talking about video games, period. We're instead going to take a look back on a show that is long dead and yet still sticks with me to this day. Folks, we're going to be talking about one of the weirdest, yet original, yet tropey, yet complex, yet... Guys, we're talking about something that is very hard to describe, and honestly, if you are the legal age to drink and do it responsibly, you may want to start drinking now. We're talking about Gotham. For those of you unfamiliar, Gotham is a prequel series to the story of Batman. This is about Jim Gordon before he becomes a commissioner, Bruce Wayne just right after his parents have died. But what the show really focuses on is the origin stories of all the Batman villains. Where in most stories, Batman's villains are created by Batman being in Gotham and the situations that happen there. Here, Batman is created by the villains being in Gotham and the situations they create. Which, honestly enough, is already a pretty cool take on a show. But Gotham did something different. Folks, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna bullshit you. Gotham is not the best show ever made. But I've never encountered another show like it. And that's not a joke. There is no other show, in my opinion, that is like Gotham. It's just so wild and so crazy and so good and so bad and so consistent, and how inconsistent it is that it's kind of its own beast that's hard to describe. Like, if you were walking down the street and just saw a fucking dinosaur there, you could describe a dinosaur. Like, it's strange to see a dinosaur, but you could describe a dinosaur. Imagine you're walking down the street and you see a dinosaur, but it also has the body of a hamster. T-Rex head, hamster body. Nothing makes sense. But, dude, I can't say I don't recommend this show. Now, before we even get into why Gotham is unlike any show ever, I gotta say this isn't a full review. I'm not going season by season. I'm mostly just going to talk about some of the arcs that are in Gotham. It really is an incredible show, so I can't help but recommend that you watch the show before this. However, even though I'm going to spoil some stuff, I will also say that sometimes Gotham can be a slog to get through. So maybe knowing where the show is going can help with that? I don't know, it's really pick your poison here. But if you don't want me to spoil anything at all, this is not the video for you. So, let's start at the beginning. As earlier mentioned, the show really does start with Batman's family dying and Jim Gordon being called on the scene. Jim promises he'll find the person who did it, and the first couple of seasons are about figuring out who killed Bruce Wayne's parents and what ends up becoming with that. Season 1 is a very serious sort of mobster drama where Penguin is trying to become this big name in Gotham, while Falcone and Maroney, I can't remember, are having their battles. Fish Mooney pops up. I do not love Fish Mooney, but we'll get into that a little later. Essentially, the first season is just crime, a dramatic crime show where this cop is coming in to clean in the town, but it's so dirty. Can he succeed? And is he going to clean up the town enough where people actually join his cause? Well, I guess we'll just have to see. Season 2 starts to dig into Batman just a little bit more. Yeah, it's still about the town. It's still serious. We're having some issues going on with Jim Gordon. But don't worry, it's all going to even out in the end. And we're starting to see the origins of some of our favorite Batman characters, like Riddler, and of course a whole episode about Mr. Freeze. But until the very end, it doesn't get comic book tropey. Then we get to Season 3. Holy fuck, Season 3. Everything in Season 3 is when it truly gets started. Mad Hatter shows up. Superpowers are finally a thing. And don't even get me started, because this is when we finally get what I think is the beginning of one of the best Jokers ever. Don't get me wrong, he's in other shit too. He's in other things before this, and he's incredible in it. But in Season 3, he goes from being, oh yeah, it's okay if I die because there could be another Joker too. Bitch, this is my fucking show and I am the Joker. Season 4, more of that. More of that, and I should also mention that in between all of this good, in between all of this not so good, and in between all of this boring, there is bullshit galore. There is so much bullshit in Gotham. Again, we'll get to that. I'm just doing a synopsis real fast. And you know Gotham is confusing if the synopsis literally has, there's bullshit in it. Season 4 is when we get characters like Scarecrow, and we see even more shit going on with these villains. They team up and they interact with each other. Season 5 is when it comes to a boiling point. And of course, was there 6 seasons or was there only 5? Hold on. They did indeed stop at Season 5, and that's when they did No Man's Land. And they brought in characters like Bane, and a couple of side characters that didn't get a lot of screen time, but were still interesting. Now, this show sounds, just based on all that, like, oh, it's a Batman story, okay. But dude, you don't even know the half of it. Let's dig into some of these arcs. I think the best place to start in terms of these arcs is their first ever time really digging into the comic books. And I think that's when they did Mr. Freeze. Now, granted, there are plenty of characters like they did. They did the Flamingo, they did Electrocutioner, they did all of this shit. But when they did Mr. Freeze, they were finally stepping into, no, we are a show about Batman villains, and we are going to prove that. The episode about Mr. Freeze is pretty good. It takes its time. It shows that he doesn't want to do this, and it has so many flaws. It's honestly kind of a good microcosm for the whole show. It's full of comic book references. It's full of like things that are so true to this character, and it's just entangled in so much bullshit. Like, there's so much. He tries to turn himself in, but then he figures out that his freezing formula works, so he doesn't turn himself in. He tries to save his wife. His wife ends up dying. And then at the end, he's kidnapped by Hugo Strange. It's just so weird, so wacky and wonderful, and I think that's a good jumping point to talk about Gotham as a whole. Now, each season of Gotham kind of has arcs to it. You sort of start on this like beginning point, like let's say Jim Gordon has something going on with Gotham and he has to solve it. Towards the middle, he will solve that problem and a new one will arise. This one will usually only take a couple episodes and will probably feature a previous villain, but it will be figured out. And then a brand new villain or a returning villain will come back to sort of end out the show. This pattern happens pretty much every season, so there is some consistency here. The inconsistency is with the storytelling itself, because half the time it feels like they have this epic painting. They have everything ready. We know where we're putting this character and where their story is going. We know where this is going to go. And then you see them have like this important character like Penguin, and they'll be like, what the fuck do we do with you? They'll get so lost in their own bullshit that they don't know where to take it. And what's interesting about that is that even though they're sort of meandering and it's filler, it's still interesting and entertaining filler. There's a whole subplot about Bruce Wayne becoming a brooding teen. Like, literally, he's like, Alfred, you're fired. I just want to drink and be a teenager. And that's this whole arc. And it does end with him stopping all the bullshit. But it goes on for way too long. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's still entertaining, and there's some good character moments with it. Specifically when Alfred tries to take him to the woods on a camping trip to try to help him, and Bruce is just not fucking having it. There is no sitcom-y, oh, well, it's okay, we're still family. No, he fires Alfred and tells him to get out. He's sick of him trying to stop him. He just wants to be an angsty teenager, and that's what's gonna happen. God damn the show. But then you have some really interesting things, and I think it's time we talked about Cameron fucking Monaghan. So, for those of you who are unaware, Batman villains and Batman properties can be a little touchy sometimes. You can see this with Titans and the CW shows. They're not allowed to do stuff with the Joker. And Joker is undeniably Batman's biggest villain, so you're doing a prequel series about Batman villains. You have to do Joker, right? Well, unfortunately, the studio had other ideas. Okay, so listen. Our plan is that we are going to do, in the first season, we're going to sort of drift away. We're going to have little subtle references to the Batman villains. Penguin and Riddler are going to be main characters. Selina Kyle specifically is going to spend a lot of time with Bruce Wayne. And of course, we're going to throw a reference for Joker in there, but he's not going to be important till later seasons. So don't worry about it, but I think we got a good plan for season 1.
Wait, you want to use the Joker? No, you can't use Joker. He's too important. We're going to do movies with him. You can't use Joker. Just cut him out of the show, please.
Well, Joker was kind of important, so actually, no. Fuck you.
We're the studio. We're in charge of this shit. You can't put Joker in the show if we say no.
Yes, we can. Fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. We're putting Joker in the show. In fact, fuck you so hard, we're going to put Joker in the show twice. In fact, fuck you, we'll do it fucking 3 times. Fuck you!
We'll cancel you.
Oh, good luck canceling us. We're not going to call him the Joker at all, so legally you can't cancel us. And then, final season, guess what? We will do Joker, because how the fuck are you going to cancel us then? Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Why did we hire you?
Because I'm going to tell one of the most interesting, terrible stories ever. I'm Mr. Gotham.
And thus Mr. Gotham executed his plan. He did bring in a character that was basically an anagram for the Joker. His name was Jerome Valeska, and he was played by the beautiful, wonderful Ginger Cameron Monaghan. And I gotta tell you, Cameron Monaghan's take on the Joker, and yes, he is the Joker, is one of the best ever. Like, don't get me wrong, they don't call him Joker in the show. They never once call him Joker. But he is Joker. He's undeniably Joker. He gets his face cut off. His laughter, his entire plots are just Joker. He's causing chaos. He has laughing gas. He is the Joker, and he revels in this character. He might be the closest we've ever gotten to the comics, not counting Mark Hamill. I think Cameron Monaghan stands shoulder to shoulder with Heath fucking Ledger. Like, this is such an impressive performance, dude. And not only does he do one Joker, he does 3, each of them different. For those of you who are unaware, Gotham is a very tropey show. There's secret twins, cheating relationships, half-season breakups, discovering you have an evil twin, or an evil clone, or an evil double, or there's a voice in your head controlling your thoughts when you fall asleep. All of the good tropes from the comic books. So, halfway through one of the later seasons, Joker finds out... Joker. Shit. I'm confusing them now. They're two different people, and they both start with J. Jerome finds out he has a twin brother named Jeremiah, and Jerome dies. But Jeremiah keeps going and becomes his version of the Joker, which is different. Jeremiah is obsessed with Bruce Wayne. He's obsessed with his ideal of a perfect world, and he wants to create it even if it involves madness. While Jerome was similar to that, but he just wanted to have fun in the madness. He didn't care about change. He cared about killing people. He loved it. These are two different versions of the Joker, and the final one seems to be a combination of the two, where unfortunately we don't see a ton of him, but he's lost to his own madness, and he's still figuring out who he's going to be, leaving room for the audience to put in whatever Joker story they want from there. And plus, he just looks the part. Like, Jesus Christ, this actor was committed to his work. Despite some bad writing, this is one of the best parts of Gotham. And they had a lot of stuff like that. Like, Jerome and Jeremiah, the Valeska brothers, were a constant throughout. They would always come in around the half-season mark, and they would stir up some trouble and take the plot in a whole new direction. But along with that, we would get little origin stories and then continuations for all of our favorite characters. There is this great episode called One of My Three Soups, where Jerome is trying to find Jeremiah, but the main plot is Mad Hatter has shown back up to town, and he's facing down with Jim Gordon. He's hypnotized half the town into killing themselves, and Mad Hatter is just fucking with him every step of the way to get revenge. It's such a good episode that feels like it's straight out of a comic book. And then there's other episodes where Riddler is trying to impress a lady. Nah. There is an incredible arc where Professor Pig, yes, the scary Batman villain that terrifies me, comes in, and he is such this overwhelming presence. He is changing Gotham for what he views to be the better, but everyone else knows it's for the worse. He is hurting friendships. He is testing the show, and he is pushing it in a bold new direction. And then, Penguin might be in love with Riddler. That happens, and it's kind of an afterthought, and it leads to a lot of tension. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not villains fighting each other and being cool. All of the villains team up, and it's an amazing scene where Scarecrow is getting people with the fucking fear gas. Mad Hatter is hypnotizing everybody. Freaking Firefly, Mr. Freeze, Penguin. Everyone is here teaming up with Jerome. It's such a cool scene. And then, also in a different season, Penguin finds out about his dad or something, and the Court of Owls tries to get Jim to join, and then the Court of Owls is killed by the League of Assassins, who were secretly the Court of Owls the entire time. And also Jim has to pick between two ladies he banged. That's part of it. Oh, and then one of those ladies becomes a villain, and they're high on Mad Hatter's sister's blood. Yeah. That one fucking scene, though. I'm probably not doing a great job of saying it, so I'll just come out front. Gotham is an incredibly flawed show.
They don't know what they want halfway through the seasons. Honestly, it feels like if they like shaved the seasons in half and had one clear vision, it would be better. However, I gotta be honest, I wouldn't change anything about Gotham. I mean, yeah, you could probably improve the first couple of seasons and get them more tropey. I think that's the one thing I would improve if I had to. But it is interesting to see where it started and where it went. How we started with this crime drama about Jim Gordon and how we ended with the world of Batman fully formed. That's an incredible journey. And Gotham makes a lot of mistakes along the way. One of the biggest being it likes to kill off the villains when they're done. And I can't stand that because this is a Batman prequel show and these villains haven't fought Batman yet. He's not around. It's so annoying when they do that, but admittedly, they're not using the characters anymore, so they don't need to keep them around. But you could have just had him go away. Rest in peace, ventriloquist. You left this world too soon. But that is a bit of a nitpick, I have to admit. Like, for the overall story, it's fine. Gotham, for the most part, is fine. But there are some points where it is incredible. To see Scarecrow's origin and see him interact with Mad Hatter and Joker and all of these other villains, it's incredible. To see team-ups you'd never expect, like, for example, Solomon Grundy and the Riddler. It's such an interesting idea, and Batman blends itself so well to a TV show. Honestly, there is stuff in here that is some of the best Batman shit we've ever gotten. It is weirdly a combo. Let me explain what I mean. There's a very serious episode where they are interviewing people trying to figure out who killed a lady. It's later revealed that this was Jerome, but it's an interesting dilemma where they're talking to everybody in the circus and they're just trying to figure out the clues. This feels a lot like The Dark Knight, where they are just slowly talking and figuring shit out. It's not too extreme, it's very much in the world of realism. And meanwhile, later, there's an episode with the Riddler where he fucking has his own TV show and he's fucking killing people live. And Lee Thompson decides, oh, I don't want you to do this anymore. So she goes on the show and fucking wins. And then he has to stop. That's straight out of Batman the Animated Series, dude. You would see that plot in the comics, in the cartoons. It's so fitting for Batman. Blah! And then you would have very focused on one character origin stories that are so perfect and straight out of the comic books. Scarecrow specifically is a highlight in this regard. He doesn't get one origin story, he gets two. Poison Ivy has an episode where she finally becomes a villain, and it is so rewarding. Riddler has episodes like that. Penguin has episodes like that. This show rewards you for sticking around and being a fan. But it also fucks with you a ton. Season 2, Jerome dies. And at the end of Season 2, a bunch of characters come back to life. Like this character named Gallivant, who ends up becoming Azrael for a little bit. I'm sure there are others too. But he's kind of the main one, and Jerome is like the one that actually affects the story overall. They also create a clone of Bruce Wayne. It's just little stuff like that that doesn't fully make sense and kind of stretches your mind. It is a plot point they focus on, but why did you kill him to begin with? Jerome was perfect, and since you never called him the Joker, you weren't breaking any rules, so why didn't you keep him around? You brought him back later, so it was okay. Honestly, I think the backlash is what brought him back. Score one for the nerd 2-bit! But honestly, there are so many more faults than just that. The show keeps focusing on things that don't matter, romances we don't care about, little things that don't really
go anywhere at all. And admittedly, they still pay it off and it's still interesting to watch, but there are bad episodes of the show. And there's just plot points that they seem to abandon. For example, Ra's al Ghul borderline forces Bruce to stab and try to kill Alfred. And you would think that would like come up in dialogue or cause some friction between the two. But no, besides that one moment where they show off the Lazarus water, not much comes of it. They just sort of pretend it didn't happen. There's not a ton of friction there. I would have loved it if Bruce couldn't look Alfred in the eyes anymore. Or if Alfred had some anger and left the mansion himself. Now, they bring it up in dialogue every now and then, and he apologizes, of course, but there's never this big scene of, like, this is the consequence. And it feels like that's because they wanted to tell one story, and then halfway through they were like, no, we can tell this other story. And that other story might be a better story, but it's still weird when you're constantly ignoring shit. Like, characters will die and then just come back. Characters will leave and sometimes never return. It's just weird, is all it is. It's different, it's monotonous, and more than anything else, it's unimportant to the plot. But that being said, there are other things that aren't necessarily important to the plot that are so good, so we're willing to ignore it. Like, we didn't need Scarecrow to have two origins. One where he, is injected with his own fear serum, and he goes crazy in a hospital, and then one where he actually becomes the Scarecrow. We could have just had him become the Scarecrow, or maybe only had that second one. But both episodes are so good and so calculated and so interesting as they dip into the character of Jonathan Crane that I wouldn't cut a single one. And plus, when we do see Scarecrow again later, they did this choice. The actor they originally had for Scarecrow left the show. So afterwards, they got a new actor and they just never had him take the mask off. I know that they only did that to accommodate for the new actor, but oh my god, that's such cool development for his character. I am no longer Jonathan Crane. I am the Scarecrow. This mask is going wherever I go, and you will not see my face again. That's so cool and such a subtle thing. There are Easter eggs like that galore. There's a reason why Professor Pig calls himself Professor Pig, and why he specifically spells it P-Y-G instead of P-I-G. It's incredible, the little details they go to, and the bigger details they just ignore. And it all meshes together to make this weird, silly, dramatic, incredibly campy masterpiece. Overall, Gotham is a good show, but there's so much wrong with it that you can't really say it's a good show, and that's why there's never gonna be another show like this. It feels like they changed their minds so many times, but they still wanted to do right by the fans, so even when they did change their minds, they put their all towards that change. Or if they did something wrong, they would go back and fix it, which is inconsistent to the story, but it is pleasing. And that's just different. You don't get shows like that. And by the way, the show itself is shot very pretty. I love seeing the grays of Gotham, and then when these villains start getting their costumes, bam, colors. When they're doing their plans, green everywhere for Riddler. Joker is covered with carnival aesthetics, and it's perfect. I just really think that, this show could have been one of the best things ever if they focused a bit more on consistency. But then again, if they had focused on that consistency, we wouldn't have got what I view as accidental great moments, like what happened with Scarecrow or some of the other minor characters. You kind of have to get through the bad stuff in order to appreciate the really good stuff. Ra's al Ghul sets himself up an apprentice that he views as worthy of the demon's head. And then later when he comes back, he's like, you're not worthy. I changed my mind. You didn't do good. Sorry. You suck. It's strange, but yet there are really cool scenes that come from it where Barbara, this character that's always been like sometimes even wilder than Jerome, has to like decide what she really wants. And I love seeing shit like that. Gotham isn't a great show, but it is a great time. It's entertaining and it's wonderful. And if you're a Batman fan, get ready to be angry and happy. This show's bipolar as fuck, but I promise you, there's good shit in here. And honestly, I go back and watch episodes from it all the time. I've only done a full rewatch of all the seasons once, but there are times where I will always go back to some of the art. Professor Pig, Jerome teaming up with the other villains, Scarecrow, Mad Hatter. We have a Batman property with a live-action Mad Hatter. That alone is pretty good. They even reference some of the really obscure characters like Flamingo and Headhunter. Headhunter! I 100% love this show, and I still acknowledge it's pretty shit. I guess that's why Gotham is unlike anything we're ever really going to get. Because no show wants to be bad. But weirdly enough, the bad parts of Gotham are kind of charming. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting there like, oh, boring plot point. I love you so much. You're so dear to my heart. But there is a point where one of the side characters runs away so that Penguin can't get them. And when Jim Gordon finally finds him, he's in a hospital where everybody is dressed up as babies. And it's baby therapy. And I'm just sitting there what? Why is this happening? It's stupid and it makes no sense in the world, but god damn it, I was laughing at it. There's a scene where Joker comes back to life, and one of his first questions to Lee Thompson is, did we have sex? She, of course, goes, no, we didn't. And, of course, Joker's one response is, what, not into gingers? God damn, even when the show is bad, it's good, guys. It's got that Riverdale quality. I could sit here for hours and just talk about the genius in the writing, the subtle Batman references that make it all worthwhile. But honestly, the show really demands to be watched. It demands for you to see its bullshit. It demands for you to see its beauty. And it is not going to tell you which parts are bullshit and which parts are beauty. You got to figure that out on your own, and I guarantee you your answer will be different from mine. That's because Gotham is unlike anything that's ever been made. It's strange, but wonderful, and I think, honestly, it should be studied. Not just to know what to do to make a great show, but also to know that mistakes can still lead to entertainment. To know that even though, your show isn't perfect, good writing and smart ideas can still save terrible writing and bad ideas. This show went on for 5 seasons, and I gotta be honest, each season moving forward was better than the last. First season, pretty good. Second season, really good. Third season, oh my god, they're finally doing comic shit. This is great. Fourth season, they're digging even deeper. This is awesome. Fifth season, the grand finale, No Man's Land. This is dope. It's so Gotham. That's the best way to describe Gotham. It's its own entity, and you have to meet it and decide if you like it. It is a T-Rex with a fucking hamster's body, and you have to decide if you adore that creature or are terrified by that creature. So that's my review of Gotham. It's a Hamstersaurus Rex. Let me know what you guys think about Gotham in the comments and if you like it. Was this video good, or was I just mumbling the whole time? I would really like to know. Please tell me what I should talk about in the future. I have plenty of ideas moving forward, and we're probably going to be talking about FNAF again here soon. I also want to cover other movies like future Marvel projects, and I'm eventually going to make something about Hawkeye, so stay tuned for that. Thank you all for watching, and God damn it, Gotham, Jesus. they really did ventriloquist dirty, though, but God, they did Mr. Pig so well. See you later, Gothamites.